cheers to this water, or before we get our shots though, because we still gotta get our shot.
I was like, you cheers with water?
I don't know if this is good or bad luck.
I know, right? I heard it was bad luck.
Bad luck?
Yes.
There's no such thing as bad luck.
Okay.
We don't believe in that. Great luck and good luck. That's all there is.
Exactly.
That's what I was like.
Positive energy. But yeah, so we just gotta figure out what shots you guys want though when he comes back.
Getting?
I was gonna go with the popular
I've
shot
always
because I usually get
I've always
cognac.
been a whiskey dude.
Oh, you're a whiskey guy.
Yeah.
Okay, put me on there. You let me know what you drink, and I'll drink with you.
Jameson, I do like.
Oh, Jameson
Recent
gets
one
me.
I've been having the Crown Vanilla, but Jameson is always like my usual.
All right, so we'll get a shot of Jameson.
But I don't know that.
I'm
You
cool
guys
with
like
any
whiskey?
shot. I like whiskey.
I like
So,
anything.
Jameson.
Me too,
So we get 5
Just
shots of
alcohol.
Jameson then.
Yeah.
I'm like, well,
All right,
no,
cool.
that's
We'll do
alcohol.
Jameson then. But anyway, all right. Now just to introduce Rich,
Yes.
my man Rich here. Third lunch was with Rich, of course, and we discussed colorism.
Right.
So introduce yourself, Adancie.
Adancie.
All right.
What else do you want?
The reason why she's here today to have the lunch with us is because, of course, we had a conversation. We picked up a conversation regarding, dating or colorism and dating.
Right.
So I figured you'd be the perfect person to sit next to my man here, Rich.
Sounds good.
To get down to the topic. And then Danny, of
Danielle.
course.
Yeah.
And I go by Danny. And I'm here because I'm a troll, huh?
I don't know.
I was trolling on the Rich post, and I was like,
I need to be refreshed. I need to be refreshed.
Oh yeah. We got to get the backup. So
yeah. Let's be refreshed.
So let's get a
Usually
little-
a lot of black women.
I didn't apply much pressure. I promise I didn't.
No.
he's
The funny thing
exaggerating.
is that usually when we read things online, there's a lot of deciphering that goes behind reading words. You know what I'm saying? The truth of the matter is, a lot of times we agree with each other online. When we engage in a lot of debates online, we agree with each other, but maybe a few words or something, or it's received differently, or it's expressed a little differently. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, at the end of the day, we do agree with a lot of things that we have. It's just
and tone is everything. We don't know the tone.
Body language, and
Right.
that this right here is the best form of communication, the purest form. You know what I'm saying? From typing words and stuff, that's the least. Talking on the phone, that's a little better. But right now, body language, face-to-face contact, and things of that nature,
That's
then you get to understand the true essence of somebody.
Now
right?
we're gonna get to see if you read my tone correctly.
Oh, I don't know what you mean.
First of all,
Listen, so Rich touched on a lot of things. Rich did touch on, of course, the upbringing of, in the household. It's mostly where you pick up how you feel about certain things and certain people. And then he was saying that a lot of people, instead of just keeping it to chemistry that they have with someone, they chuck it up to preference. They prefer something over something else, but they got to figure out where the preference comes from household, or where does it stem from, and things. One thing he didn't mention was that as men, when we talk amongst each other, we don't bring it up. We don't hold or something. Our friends accountable. If our friend was just like, oh, I don't like to date her because she's dark, and we just let it go. He took an example about Bernice. Was it Virgo?
Bernice Burgos.
Virgos, yeah. And he was saying how somebody was just like, hey, I can't date her. She's too dark. Blah, blah, blah. So he touched on that as well. He was just
and then I said,
and this is what
that
Danny
you're
said.
equally responsible.
Yep, just like when black men, I'm quoting, when black men freely express what they feel about dark-skinned black women in front of their boys, black men should hold them accountable in that space.
Absolutely.
If you cannot hold your cohorts, I can't, big words, accountable, then you're to blame also.
Absolutely.
So she said that, but of course, you wouldn't disagree with her.
No.
Because you were saying that
Yeah.
you should be held accountable.
Well, I think one of the things we need to get down, or at least understand from one another, is it okay to have preference? Okay, so it is okay?
It's okay to have preference, but you have to understand why you have those preferences.
It goes back to what you originally said.
Okay.
Background.
It originates from somewhere. So here's my thing. My thing at the end of the day, when it comes to this thing that we quote unquote call preference, all I'm saying is at the end of the day, we chalk a lot of things up to preference, right? So if you prefer chicken sausage over pork, there's a reason why you prefer that, right? So you prefer that. It originates from somewhere at the end of the day. You don't just like chicken because, I'm pretty sure you like chicken because of the health benefits that it has over swine, maybe, right? Or is it just taste?
Health benefits, yeah.
Health benefits. So there's a reason why you prefer it. So a lot of men chalk up who they like dating, you know what I'm saying, based on color or, and they chalk it up just to this genuine kind of word that we use called preference. But I feel like that preference originates from somewhere. So pretty much in the video I was talking about from when I was a kid and I first started having my first crushes on women and things like that. Color was never an issue, you know what I'm saying? Color was never something that, you know, I liked or whatever, or was like, oh, she's lighter, she's darker and stuff. Now I know there's men out there who grew up, depending on the environment that they grew up, whether a household. I don't know if you remember the Hispanic server that we had. He was talking and he said that his father told him he wants him to date a Dominican woman. That's what his father's dream was of his, or something like that.
Yep.
If we look at it from a media standpoint, you know, you have a lot of girls who are growing up, and back in the days when you guys played with dolls and stuff, you were a lot of times given white Barbie dolls and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of you ladies have seen the little social.
I've done it on experiments on girls before.
Okay, so you know, you're familiar with the famous social experiment that they did with the little girls and the light,
picking
dark,
out the light, the dark, and
then
all
the dark
that.
things. So small things like that, I feel like contribute into a lot of men that grew up thinking about what is considered beautiful or what's not. Yeah. I was blessed and I have to get, you know what I'm saying, tackled by that mindset or whatever the case is. So the only thing that I'm not confused, but I want to know other people's perspective on is if this thing that we call preference, if it's we should just chalk it up like, oh yeah, that's fine. If somebody just prefers such and such, is that okay? Or is if somebody tells me that like, oh nah, I just prefer lighter skinned girls, if that's wrong, you know what I'm saying?
So I think, to go back, and I'm gonna connect the points, is originally he mentioned that if you hear your friend saying it, are you equally responsible? And you said we agree, right?
Right.
And so in talking about how it's rooted in your upbringing, I think we all have been affected by the dominant society and how it tells us what color we're supposed to like and who's better and who is not better.
Right.
But comes a point in time where someone in the group has to be intelligent enough to say, hold on, we can't have this in the group. For example, amongst black women, black men, we don't really talk down about them in the same way that black men talk down about black women, because black women hold other black women accountable.
Time out. Yeah. She said that like it was just regular. Like it's just, okay, wait.
I think it's true.
Bring
to
that
an extent.
back.
I don't think we'd be like his ugly black ass. You know, we don't talk like that.
Wait,
I've heard black men talk about black women in that capacity.
Here's the thing, though. Here's what I want to ask you right now, because when I say that I had a friend or somebody that I worked with that said, when I show him somebody like Bernice Burgos, who to a mass amount of people would think she's a beautiful woman or whatever, right? But when he says like she is beautiful, but she's just too dark.
Who again?
Bernice Burgos.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah,
so, the big booty.
Yes,
Okay, she's gorgeous.
You know, right? So when somebody like him tells me that she's just too dark or whatever, is that a negative?
It is negative.
That is a negative.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to figure out. So if he says he prefers a lighter tone, is saying that lighter tone is better? But you know what I'm saying? So
just because you prefer a lighter tone does not mean you have to downplay the darker tone.
But that's the question. Did he downplay by saying he just prefers? So that's the question. Now, if he was to be like, nah, black girls look like monkeys.
You know what I'm saying?
That's another level.
Hold on, wait a minute. The reason why we don't know the answer is because accountability wasn't there, because you didn't question it.
Okay, so here's...
You didn't question it.
So here's the thing.
If my homegirl would have said that, I would have said, hold on, sis.
Which one is this?
This is a Boca Fish Dad.
Boca Fish.
What I was mentioning is like, we can't answer the questions for your friend. Even though this is like a very small like scenario, we can't answer the questions for your friend. We would know more because he's your friend, and you would be able to say, well, really this is why he, if you would have dug in. And that's my point about black men, is there's no accountability in the group. There's no questions asked why my friend feels this way. Because if I have friends who prefer white men, and I know why. They tell me why. I ask questions. And I think that happens a lot with
you guys.
oh, that's okay. Thank you.
much look, I know in the video it might have seemed like, oh, that's your preference, you cool, like, you know what I'm saying, but there was multiple weeks in back and forth because I don't feel that way, you know what I'm saying?
No,
so,
of course.
You know,
and you explained
naturally men are gonna go back and forth like, bro, you crazy, like da da da, you gotta, but me, I got into the science of it, hence what the whole video was about, right? Yeah. So the whole thing about this whole preference thing is like, it's using the term preference like an okay kind of thing to just chalk up, like, you know what I'm saying, versus like, nah, there's a reason why you feel that way, and you might want to dissect why you feel that way, because that might be poisonous if you have children, or if you grow up, you know, grow up thinking like that or whatever. So I definitely understand what you're saying about, you know, he has a white girlfriend as well, you know what I'm saying? So it's definitely something that I agree with her. We don't disagree here.
Yeah, not at all.
We don't disagree.
Is your friend, I have a question, is your friend dark skinned?
He's light skinned. So his mother is Hispanic, but she's white, like she looks white, and his father is a black woman. His father grew up telling him that he would never date a black woman, you know what I'm saying? His father is the type of man that grew up like ill or saying certain things about black women. That contributed to why he thinks the way that he does.
Fish with no french fries with grits.
Grits?
I think it's mine. Yes.
Fish and grits.
Yeah, she wants grits.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So there's a root cause for why he feels like that and things are, and like I said, I can't relate, you know what I'm saying? If we're talking from the essence, from the beginning of when we first see a woman to when she passes by, attraction for me has never stemmed around shade or anything like that, you know what I'm saying? So I'm either attracted to her or
I
not.
think Adancie has
I
something
used to be, you know what? I mean, I'm not proud of it, but I used to be very ignorant when I was younger.
Okay.
Like, I went to a predominantly white high school. I went to Olympia High School. And I know for me, I had that mentality where, well, a lot of black men didn't necessarily care for darker skinned women.
Right.
So in response to that, I only dated white men. And it was because of that. I only dated white men. And it was more so of like, well, if you don't want me, I don't want you.
Right.
It wasn't because, oh, I didn't like black men. It was just more so,
Where you felt wanted.
I think I trained myself, like I put it in my head where, well, if they don't want me, I don't want them, and I'm only gonna date white men.
We could really get into some deep stuff right now. We could really get into some deep stuff. So
and it was very ignorant.
I want to know the essence of when you were growing up, right, and your attraction, you know, towards men and who you dated, and you just gave me because I can give you some insight on. I'm talking from middle school to transitioning to high school, having your first crushes and stuff, and I could tell you how if you don't have the proper wisdom, if you don't have the proper knowledge about certain things that are around you,
She did admit that she was a bit ignorant at first.
Yeah, I was ignorant, and then, I don't think that way nowadays.
But before we use a strong word like ignorant, let's just understand at the end of the day, you felt the need to kind of naturally gravitate to where you were accepted and not necessarily tolerated, right?
Right.
So don't put all the blame on yourself at the end of the day for why you felt like that. It's just like if you have dreams of having a family one day and getting married and stuff, and all the men that you maybe like are just not showing you the same type of attention, it's like natural to kind of gravitate towards where you're, you know what I'm saying? So for me, I'm just feeling like at the end of the day, we have to acknowledge that it's not necessarily all our fault sometimes until we get the proper education.
I don't know if I really had that. I don't know if I had that story.
I can tell you.
So for me, growing up, I think I seen everybody in my family married in all shades of colors, like of blackness.
Right.
Everybody was married. So I come from a whole lineage of family being married. And so going to school, I did go to predominantly white schools, elementary schools. But I still liked the few black boys that were at my school. I also went to a Boys and Girls Club where everybody liked each other and everybody was black. Yeah. And so I don't think I really had this like attraction to white men. Right. Transitioning into college, more white, because I went to Florida State, so white men would approach me and I would be like, I was very specific during that time. I'm African American. I would only date someone who was Caribbean or African at the time, period. Absolutely. You couldn't talk to me, but now I'm a little bit better. I was like, I want whoever gonna take me out to eat.
Okay, so you would say that you're more open right now. You're pretty much saying.
Are you guys gonna like seriously just do straight up, or you want any chasers or anything? Or?
Maybe the ladies want chasers. I don't know.
No.
We can taste it with the food. We can taste it with the food.
At my crib all the time. So
That's what's up.
So
Why the ladies
we'll take a small break. I'm just saying. You're talking about your high school and your dating experience. You got to is it FSU?
Mm-hmm.
And then you were like, you won't date them if they're white because you wanted to be part of the culture, but now you're more
I never
diverse.
was interested in white men, but now I'll give it a try, but it's still weird. I don't know, because I don't know. I don't want to live my life explaining my culture forever.
Gotcha.
I want to go home to someone who like understands me. I don't think they'll understand.
Okay.
Well,
Hey, see, she has the opposite on
I
the
didn't really
spectrum.
feel like I had to explain my culture. It's just more so of like, we're just two people vibing.
You've dated white men before?
I've dated
Yeah,
white
she
men.
said she dated in high school.
Okay.
Yeah, I've dated white men. I mean, I don't really feel like I've ever had to necessarily explain my culture.
Okay.
Yeah, the only thing for me, if I was to, I've seen dating like, even Hispanic. Let's not chalk everything up to just white people. Even Hispanic women. I've dated Hispanic women, but that have racist parents and stuff like that. And, let's take the extreme of racism out. But sometimes when you're the only black person around, it's like, let's have this conversation with you because you're black. Let's say this.
Yes.
Let's say this joke
That is
because
true.
you should find this funny because you're black.
And I'm gonna apply that same energy as to someone I don't
So
know.
I think for me, when it comes to interracial dating, that's the only tough part, because a lot of people, when it comes to you being black, they try to act a certain way to appeal to you. And that's an issue. Like, you know what I'm saying? Rather just be themselves. They will be themselves with anybody, with the person from Germany or the person from Russia or the person from Australia, but because you have a black skin tone, there's like, you might find this. Did you hear the new Lil Wayne album?
That is
The
true.
Lil Wayne
Like, I
album.
don't
The
even
new Lil Wayne
Get some
album?
napkins real quick.
I'm like, I don't even listen to Lil Wayne like that.
So
I remember.
that's the only tough part. I mean,
Oh, you fine. I get some napkins right here, bro.
I had it. Oh, you got it? Yeah.
Like, hey girl,
Yeah, no girl. Like,
don't call me
Okay,
a
so you
girl.
guys saying the conversation changes.
yes.
The conversation changes.
Conversation does
So it
change.
shouldn't change.
Yeah, it shouldn't change.
Okay.
If you
Just
like,
be
if you
yourself.
like football, if you like golf, talk to me about it. Let me tell you. Oh, I'm not too familiar with it, but educate me on it. You know what I'm saying?
True.
Versus being like, man, where you think LeBron's going? How do you know I watch basketball? Like,
I know. Like,
how do you know I?
Key point.
So,
the
that's
so
that's the only thing for me. If I was dating interracially, then I would be like a little like. Come
Or
on.
like, did you hear Lil Wayne's new album?
Yeah.
You did? I'm blacker than you.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just,
Wow.
it goes to another level.
But sometimes we encounter that and think it's supposed to be like that because they don't know what in our shoes feel like. So it's only right that they try to relate.
Right.
So let's just say if they wanted on a relate, like trying to relate standpoint, does that fly?
No, actually.
Okay.
Because it makes me feel uncomfortable that you can't be yourself around me. That's how I know, like, you recognize my race. And people say their love is colorless, but then why do you try to portray my culture of my ethnicity if color didn't matter?
Right.
All of my male friends date interracially, right? And so I like to think like, oh, what if this was me? One time we were together and one of my male friends, his girlfriend said something inappropriate, right?
What was she?
She was white.
White.
She said something inappropriate. So if she was like an everyday white person hanging out with us and saying something inappropriate, will we check her? But since she's a part of the group and she's your girlfriend, how do we handle this? Because she just offended this whole entire table.
That is a key. That is crazy. Okay. Let's run that back. Run that back. So now, when that situation happens, right, and you're there, and you bringing that up, was there a resolution to it?
So
It's tough bringing it up because you don't want to be the one to be like make things uncomfortable now when everybody seems, or was it tough? I'm quite, because
Everyone
I could see
said-
myself being in that position and being like, yo, like, let me just keep it cool, because like,
This is
Now
what
I
everyone
would have to
says.
check her.
Danielle, don't say anything. Don't say
because
anything.
and it's very tough for black women too, because you don't want, or maybe you don't care, but you don't want to be perceived like black girl, you know,
Jealous of this white woman
angry
with
black,
the,
you know what I'm saying? So it's like there's so much things going on in your head, but you need to correct this person before they continue to go out in society thinking that what they just said was okay. You know what I'm
And see,
saying?
I take it a little further. So if you say it in front of us, one day you're going to have children. It's not necessarily that your children are going to look biracial. They can look like President Obama, who looks like a regular black man. Or they could look like Meghan Markle, who looks biracial. You never know what your child can look like. So how we see our children is not how the world sees our children, right? And so if you look black, the world's going to see you as black. So you say these things in front of your children, they go out. Parents are the first teachers. So if you don't know it as someone who's in an intimate relationship and you don't know what you can say and what you can't say, how can you raise children to be equipped for a world that's even harsher than what you already introduced them to?
Makes sense.
But no, I would have had to check her. No.
So do you mind losing a friendship over such?
Yes. Yeah.
What if they're, let's go back to Rich point.
They check me all the time.
What if
at
they're
work.
like, you know, their chemistry, you know, put them together and they're well in love with each other with the chemistry. Now she makes this comment. Now you have to talk to your friend
I think
regarding
it's
their
how
relationship.
You address it. I think it's how you address it. If you address it where, hey, that's not really an appropriate comment, versus I think it's all about how you address it.
Okay.
Because if you address it in more so of like, she just probably don't know, versus like, oh, hell no.
Hell no. Right?
You know, you're going to get two different.
Depends on what they say.
Okay.
Because it's the N word, you don't get any sympathy.
Yeah, you should know better. You should know better. Yeah, you should know better. But I just think it's how you address the situation and how they respond too. Because if you respond to me crazy, we might have to discuss it a little later.
But then for me, it's like, is it willing to lose a friendship? Thank you. You said something in reference to like white women is kind of like an escape a little bit, or something about they prepare meals or something when
you
you
were
come
saying that.
home.
I gotta see what this is.
you were saying that-
Yeah.
you
No,
were-
I gotta, because I gotta understand.
Yeah.
What
You were saying that if you would date, sometimes like if you dated a white woman, she probably cooks and everything, and when you get off of work, you're getting ready, you eat, you get a massage.
Okay.
But then dating a black
Woman, you
And this is
You get home.
perspective. This is
Yeah.
not my views
Yeah.
necessarily. I'm talking about perspective that a lot of my counterparts, my peers, might have said to me or whatever.
okay.
No,
okay.
no.
Okay.
Not my
Okay.
views. Not my views or
I
whatever.
thought it was serious.
No. This is talking about what, you know, maybe a lot of, you know, black men who maybe prefer or whatever to date outside of their race.
So
or
we have this.
whatever.
We need
So-
to get some clarification.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
So-
this is definitely not my views or whatever. So
It's
Salt.
good that
You
we
got some salt over there?
salt.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
No, I got
See?
crackers right here.
when you leave black
That's
women,
fine.
you lose salt.
Oh God! See, you opening so much brackets right now. We're not gonna go there.
It's just shade. It's just shade.
We gonna leave it there.
It's just petty.
But yeah,
Yeah, so, you know, there's men out there that
I can pull it up. You know
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
I can pull the facts.
there's men out there that maybe feel like
I think he's right what he's saying, actually.
right, yeah. So there's men out there that maybe, I don't know, that they feel like, you know, let me do something real quick, because they both gave their experiences growing up and what got them to the mindset that they have right now in terms of dating, right? Versus, you know, when you were in college, when you went to Olympia, you said, high school and stuff like that. Let me give you some insight on mine, but how that necessarily didn't affect me, but it could affect another black man growing up. So let me give you the little quick rundown in less than 2 minutes. So, you know, when I'm in middle school and I moved from New York down here to Florida and I start having my first major crushes and first, you know, girlfriends and stuff like that, I kind of gravitated towards who liked me as well. Like, you know what I'm saying? So when I came down here in 6th grade and I started, you know, having my first crushes and stuff, My first girlfriend was this white girl, Megan, and then my second one was this Hispanic girl, Crystal, and stuff like that. The few black girls that I did happen to like or whatever, they didn't really like me, or they always like made fun of me, or like tried to hit me and fight me in the hallways and stuff like that. Those particular ones, you know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna group all black women or whatever. So it just seemed for me growing up, like when I was in middle school at least, that all the black girls that I did seem to like or whatever, they was just more like aggressive towards me, whereas the other ones were just kind of just like, the other ones were just kind of
That's
like
how they
more
show love.
shy. You know what I'm saying? They were just shy. They might write me a letter in class and pass it, have their friend pass it to me and stuff like that. When I pass by in the hallway, they'd be like, Richie, the black girls would be like, Richie, you so black, you got a big head or something. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, little things like that.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
You know, so, and then in high school, I had my, you know, my girlfriend who she lived down the block with me. She was black Jamaican. She went to the same church I did. We dated for like 3 years and stuff. You know what I'm saying? But that was a whole nother story or whatever. So think about that black guy who maybe went through that. I seen a post. I don't know if you guys seen this post, but when Childish Gambino's video for This Is America came out and he got that big exposure and everybody was loving it and stuff like that, there was a viral post that went around on Facebook of like some woman, she took a picture of him with his baby mother, the mother of his child, which is a white woman. It was like, before y'all start praising Donald Glover and thinking that he's all woke and stuff like that.
You're welcome.
Before y'all start praising him, thinking he's all woke and stuff like that, look at this foolishness right here.
I wouldn't say it's foolishness,
but that's what
he
a
does
lot
look like
of
a hypocrite.
Well, not just that, he's in the past has said derogatory things about black women before he transitioned to this.
Donald Glover said that?
He's made derogatory comments about black women prior to him becoming famous. So it's not just about him being with a woman. Yeah. He has made derogatory statements.
I have to research about that, but let me finish real quick. So pretty much this other woman kind of countered it. This other black woman, she pretty much countered it, and she stated that
You want more ice?
Yes.
This other black woman countered it. She took a screenshot of that post that black woman said, and she countered it. She was just like, oh, let's be real, ladies. None of us were checking for the nerdy black kid that was in high school growing up. The kid that was playing video games, the kid that had skater shoes or listened to rock bands. None of us were paying attention to him and stuff like that. Whereas these white women were going over their house playing video games and stuff like that with them. And I was just like, wow, like that's crazy. Granted, I
push back against that. I don't think that's fair.
We're all generalizing right now. We're all generalizing. Granted, we're not saying everything. This conversation is not about an everybody thing, right? But this is about the stigma that goes around in society about specific groups and things of that nature, right? So when she hit with that counter, I was just like, man, now that I think about it, like, when I was growing up, that wasn't necessarily the case for me too. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't until like I started maybe carrying myself a certain way that like I started to get certain type of attention from different types of women out there and things of that nature.
The reason why I think that comment is like so unfair is because it assumes that there aren't nerdy black girls.
Right.
And there weren't nerdy black girls in school, and they also experienced the same level of like black guys not liking them. In high school, people are awkward, period. Anyways, I know I was awkward in high school. Even when I thought I was cool, I was awkward. But there was awkward black boys, and there was awkward black girls. There was nerdy black boys. There was nerdy black girls. But I think amongst those groups, they didn't mingle together. They hung out with white people themselves. And so I think that's why they mostly ended up with white people. I don't think it's necessarily that black girls didn't like nerdy black boys, because there are nerdy black girls.
Right.
And nerdy black boys weren't checking for the nerdy black girls.
Okay.
You can open a whole can of worms with this.
And on top of it, with Childish Gambino, he was on a radio show. He was saying how he's racist. Like, you're a hypocrite.
Yeah,
that's why I was like, I can't really relate to him.
I'm hearing this for the first time.
He was on the Charlemagne, what is it, the Breakfast Club? Saying how he was, I'm a little racist. I'm like, but you have a white girlfriend and a white baby mama, so how are you racist?
I think it's the agenda now. You know what I'm saying? Pop
I gotta
culture.
get the context of that conversation. I'm not sure.
Sometimes the agenda that they're pushing is definitely different from the agenda that they originally started with.
Right.
As an artist, if something is popping, right, and they kind of feel like, okay, the label's like, this is the agenda you need to push, pro-black.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna say what they need to say on camera.
Right.
We'll see what's happening in 2028.
Thank you. So yeah, what was your conclusion of the point that you were making? Just so I'm correct.
No. So pretty much I'm talking about experiences and how some people, those experiences end up shaping them forever, whereas some people, they can grow up and, you know, they can obtain the knowledge that they need and not be absorbed by those experiences totally forever. You know what I'm saying? Because if I was to go off of my experiences in middle school, I'll be like, damn, man, black women don't even really like me. They're always mad at me. They're always trying to fight me in the middle of the hallways before classes, and they're always trying to do this. And in high school, before you know it, I'm only dating Hispanic and white girls and stuff. But I didn't get absorbed by those experiences. You know what I'm saying? And I've only really dated black women since high school. Like, you know what I'm saying? So that's just my experiences. But there's men out there who've been absorbed by those experiences, or maybe they've actually, you know, unfortunately got in situations before where it shaped them the wrong way. You know what I'm saying? I remember I went to, what was it? What's that bar in Point Orlando? That bar, Blue Martini.
Blue Martini, yeah.
I went with my boy Lamar one time. His friend came in town, this other black man or whatever, and he, you know, it was loud, and he brought up the whole thing on how, like, he wanted to show off some girl he was dating or whatever, and wanted to make it a note that, like, oh yeah, she's not that dark and stuff like that. And just that small comment showed that, like, you know what I'm saying, he feels, you know what I'm saying, a certain way about certain things. And, you know, so I was just giving my different upbringing versus, you know, their upbringing and how it shaped them for a point, and then it changed.
Yo, doing okay? Anything?
Yes,
Nah, we're fine so far. Thank you, sir.
It's interesting because I'm thinking of like a very specific situation that happened while being in graduate school. So I was at like Jacksonville Beach.
Right.
And so they have like bars at the beach. I don't know if you all have ever been there, but it's almost everybody there is white. And there's very few black people go there. So it was my two of my friends. We were all in graduate school. One of them was Nigerian. The other one was African American. I'm African American. We're all together. And we were walking to a bar. And there was a group of black guys. And so myself and the Nigerian girl, we're dark skinned, right? She's darker than I am. And the girl that was with us, the African American girl, she was very, very light skinned. And the guys caused a scene about her being light skinned, like, come over here. My goodness, you are beautiful with your light skinned ass. And like, and so it then, like, some kind of way, like, they made a circle around us and around her and kind of pushed us out. And they were like having a conversation about her being light-skinned and being beautiful. And it's you know, it's not the first time I've seen it, but it was the first time I was amongst a group, right? And that, like, something that extreme happened. And those things also in my adult life, like, you see is every person hasn't matured to a place where they learn, and I think you see that over and over and over again. So when I see like black women not dating black men, I feel like it's a response. Yeah, and it's a valid one. But when black men date white women, it's not the same.
Why is that?
Wait. That's
what I'm trying to. Yeah.
That's actually one of the topics that I'm due to debate. I have a new Battle of the Sexes show.
Okay.
That's coming soon.
And so we won't take it down. We won't take it down.
No. I want you guys to take it there. I need some substance. So I need to hear what the women and men think.
Right.
So you were very. Do you want to let her finish?
Well, yeah, definitely. I just want to know why it's not the
your
same
point
from the guy
and then
who got teased.
Wait. Let her explain it, and then you go in real quick.
Okay, so
I think so.
I don't think so. I think
already.
Yeah. I don't have my watch on. I was like looking at what time it was.
It's not even 2 o'clock yet.
Oh, it's a good time to be drunk.
It is 2:25.
2 o'clock is a good time to be drunk. So I don't want to limit it to the black guy who was teased, because I think I don't want to overgeneralize, but I think it's not limited to that population of black men who who choose lighter skinned women or white women over darker skinned
Meaning
black
there's
women.
multitude of other reasons you're saying.
There's a lot of different groups of black men who choose lighter skinned or white women. It's not just the black guy who was teased, right? And I think black men who were teased about being dark skinned, like, I don't want to invalidate their experiences like that. That's very real.
Right.
But the sexist situation when you're talking about the different sex, I think it's different because most times, like, black men usually are the one who make the choice, they choose, right? And so for black women, we have to, like, sit and wait kind of to be chosen. And if you're not chosen, you have to go with whoever is choosing you, as you stated before. With a black man, you get to choose who you want. And if you're choosing...
That's very key.
That's very good.
That is key.
Yeah, that's good. That's a very good point.
So it's like, if you're choosing...
We're the hunters. Right?
Yes, so if you're choosing to always go to this group of people, and while you're choosing that group of people, you're seeing the other ones are ugly. And you may have a dark-skinned mother, and even though you may be with a light skin, you may have a dark-skinned daughter one day who may learn that same negative
rhetoric, right?
Yet that you're putting on other dark-skinned women. So you're keeping the cycle going. I always bring in children, because I believe that the cycle will not stop unless people change. Yeah, of course.
Absolutely.
Man. All right, so some good insight. So now, last point on the colorism topic, and we'll move on.
Yeah. We could go on all day about it.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah.
Going back to it, I was saying regarding the job aspect, that we get turned down. Black men usually get turned down in the corporate world because of their skin and name and things like that.
Yeah.
And when they go home to whoever they're dating, if they don't understand that, it could be problematic. And then Dannie stated that, of course, this is a question for you, of course.
Right.
She said, you probably answered, to be honest. But however...
He didn't respond to anything I said.
Okay. I didn't? He said, he responded, but he probably didn't respond to what you said. Yeah, he did. He said he was definitely...
I think you messy.
No. I just want to make sure we have...
You messy.
No. I just want to make sure we have the dialogue and we understand each other. I'm not messy. I'm not trying to start anything. I just really want to know, like, because... I just want to wait what you said just to clear it up, because that's really, because this is gonna go be in my comments for the longest, and I just wanted to clear up so I know.
Right.
You said black women have it hard because we aren't supported by black men. Don't minimize our struggle to our looks.
Right.
We deal with
I'm still doing okay. Can I tell you anything?
sexual assault, colorism, etc., and etc. And
Thank
she
you.
said it's perpetuated by black men.
Yeah, so pretty much when I was talking about the struggles that an everyday black man has to go through outside in society, trying to find himself, his career, trying to make something of himself. What I was talking about coming home and saying that a black woman doesn't understand that, I was not saying that a black woman, if anything,
understand.
You did say that, though.
No. That's not what I was trying to say. What I was talking about is a black man that goes through things like that and comes home and maybe has to deal with things in a relationship. You know what I'm saying? That
So
might not necessarily. So I'm not talking about like a black woman. What black woman doesn't understand. We're black. We understand.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay, I was gonna get him all the way together.
I most definitely understand that. But can we, before we even continue, can we agree that the strength of a black woman is like no other, right? So the dominance in a relationship that comes, there's things that a black woman would speak up about in a relationship that bothers her that not necessarily a white woman would. You know what I'm saying?
We don't know. It's just this different.
Okay, so I'll do this for you. So what I'm saying is this: it's like a black man who has, like, let's say I just got a deal turned down for me, and this was a big deal that was gonna change me and you. We're married, that was gonna change our lives and stuff, our children's lives and stuff, right? But then I come home and, like, you maybe want to bicker about something that just is just like, come on, like, you saw something on social media that's just so irrelevant, like, you know what I'm saying? Mark, you remember when I told you about my last relationship? Like I said, we know that this conversation is not about generalizations or whatever. It's just about experiences that we've all encountered or whatever. You remember how I was telling you in my last relationship how, like, I think I showed you how, like, there was a Cardi B, right, in her last album. So she has one song on there. I'm not sure who's it featured, but she has a lyric where she says, "I like niggas who've been in and out of jail," something like in that, right? It was just free. There was no metaphor, no like I'm waiting for the punchline. It was just out there. It was just straight to the point. Like, I like men who've been in and out of jail. I like niggas who've been in and out of jail. So I posed a question on my Facebook one day, like, yo, Cardi B literally just said, "I like niggas who've been in and out of jail. Ladies, I'm Fox News. Defend that." I was in a relationship at the time, right? And my girlfriend, who's black, you know what I'm saying, who is black, she felt like I was soliciting having women interact with me, you know what I'm saying? And like, it was a big fight. Like, she felt like this was just like, you're just doing too much. Look at all of these girls like on your profile. You're literally soliciting women to having conversation with you and stuff. Like, that's not respectful when you're in a relationship. I'm like, yo, it's just a song, like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And like, there was this big thing, and she was just like, she hung up the phone on me when before we was going to bed, and was like, yo, like, that contributed to me feeling like, yo, this is just not even fun no more. Like,
I have a question. Do you think that same scenario can happen with a white woman? Because I don't feel like, oh, that's like a black woman thing.
I can't say that.
Because I can tell you, like I mentioned, I have friends, all of my male friends date white women, and they can like tell you the same story, right? That has happened to them. Like, oh, you like other girls' picture, but you don't post pictures of me on Instagram. Right. That has happened to my friends, right? So I feel like maybe because your interaction has been more with black women than white women, you don't know the relationship and how it goes with white women, because I don't think that's like a black woman thing. Like, that's a black woman's characteristic, because me, I wouldn't do that, and I'm a black woman, so I don't think we're a monolith. And sometimes it's like, I think that's kind of how it gets misconstrued with talking about black women can't support you when you're down and you're the struggle. Black women have been carrying this community for a very long time and raising children by themselves or with partners who haven't been really interacting with their children. So I feel like that's not a good example.
But I think I know where you were going. But I see where you were going too.
So it wasn't necessarily like about a black woman understanding the struggle of a black man. No, absolutely. You know what I'm saying?
You were just saying, draw a little bit of. I'm sorry. I'm like. Look at that. But anyway, let's just say we had. He was saying that certain things were brought up after work that shouldn't have been. Hold up, focus. Is that what you were saying? Okay, let me just. Okay.
But like, this is what I'm talking about, right? If you notice her mannerisms, the way she just, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was just kind of. But this is what I'm talking about. Imagine me in a white household, and then the father or somebody, yo, bro, that's what I'm talking. You feel what I'm saying?
But you can clearly tell that she has like a little bit of. Look at her hairstyle.
Listen. But that's what I'm saying, though. That's what I'm saying. But it's the assumptions, though. Like, if I was in a suit and tie or whatever the case is, she probably would have still done that.
But then again, she did catch the tail end of the conversation where you guys were.
She didn't hear anything. She didn't hear anything.
I know what you felt, but I said I ain't gonna interrupt the conversation.
But no. And imagine you around the dinner table and you don't want to say nothing because you don't want to be like, here you go, like just messing up the fun.
But that was awkward for me as fuck, because I didn't want to like make y'all embarrassed to be like,
come on, girl. It's just like, yo, be yourself, yo. Like,
that is her.
No. How do you know that? No, you don't know that.
Look at her hairstyle was and everything else.
No, I feel like she thirsty to be included. Just too thirsty to be included.
It's like
I think it's all. I don't want to say subjective, but it is different from everybody's point of view. She obviously sees it differently.
Because it's like,
I'm gonna see how she talk to other white people, and then we'll really know. We'll really know.
If you look at her, you can tell she's like.
You think if she was serving Philip and Martha at the table right now from the UK, she would have done that?
Hell no.
She wouldn't be able to relate.
She'll be like, right, guys.
Come on, she wouldn't be able to relate.
Overheard the conversation.
I think it's more like
hear nothing. She been passing 2 seconds. It takes 2 seconds to get from that door to that door.
I'm about to pass out.
I think she overheard it because why would she have said that if she didn't overhear it?
It's why at the table you can't check them because you might get.
I think she overheard.
Just be on some like, come on, dog. Like,
Hey, and then we brought it up in the beginning of the conversation too. Like, it happens.
It don't take God long to reveal it.
Yeah.
But so, okay, let's open a parentheses real quick before we close yours. Was that okay or not okay?
Which part?
What you just did.
So I'll be fair and say you can't really know, but because we don't know and I only can go with what I saw, it's not okay. Just because you assume that that's relating to me, right? And you assume that's how I speak. You assume that I want you a part of this conversation, period. Like, why are you in the business?
Yeah, you know, everything at the end of the day, reverse the roles. It's as simple as that. Reverse the roles. If we were a group of white kids right now, dressed the same way we do, I'm not gonna go like, dude, like that's just kind of like that's just kind of what I do that. Like, you know what I'm saying?
So if
it's like that assumption.
Hypothetically speaking,
I think it's who it's coming from, because I think, like, when I look at her, I see more so of like, I mean, clearly she's white, but when you look at her, you can tell based on her haircut and her demeanor.
Guys?
Very good.
Yeah? Can I get some of this out of your way?
Yes, you can take this plate.
You still working on that?
By the way, do y'all make this syrup? It's really good.
Yes, they they buy the syrup, but then they put fresh rosemary in there.
It's tasty.
Yeah.
Not that I'm like a syrup connoisseur or something.
Got you.
No, I think if you look at her, you can clearly tell she more so relates to the black community. Yeah. I think if it was someone like looked like a Becky or something, I'd be like, nah, that was a little inappropriate.
So what is relating also? Because do you need to talk like me in order to relate?
I don't say talk like, but you can tell like the way. I mean, for me, the way she looks.
Yeah, the bamboo earrings, the earrings.
The
Let me take an
hairstyle.
example.
She had bamboo earrings.
Not
She
bamboo,
had
but,
like
you know,
a clearly
those,
black woman hair.
joints.
I mean, more so a
They
black
sell those
woman
at
haircut.
Urban Outfitters these days. You can't trust it.
So listen, if you go to a foreign country and you've been studying Rosetta Stone, and you speak Spanish, and you go to like Venezuela or something, and you out there, you trying to fit in, you hear people talking in Spanish, you go in, and then they're like, she don't speak Spanish, she can't relate to us, but she's been studying how to relate to them.
Right.
Her whole 2 months or whatever she took before she took her vacation. Does that make her relate? Like, is it relatable that she's able to do that? Is it okay for her to do that? So let's take it from like race instead of like it's language and race. Let's take it into that comparison. So she might be disappointed that she wasn't accepted because she's been learning all this stuff. So take it for instance, her, the waitress. She's probably feel like she's been introduced to the black culture, and then she feel like she relates to us just now, and then now we're just
I think it's different.
don't do it. So what is?
I think it's different, right? I think it's how you submerge yourself into those spaces, right? She was not invited into this space.
So that was the wrong way to
She was not invited into this space. Once again, you assumed that is my culture. Because even though I'm black, I could have been raised around white people. How you know? I understood that. I had a white girl walk up to like ask me, "Are you tender-headed?" You know what I mean?
Are you
like,
tender-headed?
So it's just like you really trying to overly relate at this point. You're over relating.
So she knows that black girls are tender-headed. So she like that's my relating point. Let me use that as
for example. I know like you know saying like a few words in Creole, right? So how is it that I walk into someone's conversation, they speak in Creole, and like just so I can relate, let me say I know como yela, just so I can connect with you. You know, like you're overdoing it. You may speak English. We can relate on the language that we understand together. I don't need to immerse myself in your culture to be connected to you. There's other parts of you besides.
So it's not a good thing to use that as a welcome mat, basically.
You have to look at the
because we're the most sensitive when it comes to that. You know, where it's like
we're not embracing to it. Is that what you're saying? As far as like black people, we're most protective when it comes to it.
We're protective of anything we create. You know what I'm saying?
Because we don't get to keep it.
We don't get to keep it. So anything that we create.
Pause.
Yeah, we're protective.
I'm just saying these things like it's normal.
Yeah. We're protective of anything.
So wait. Right before we scroll past that. So he's saying black people.
Sorry, sir.
As a unit, we hold on and we are prideful of our things because we don't get to keep it.
Right. Because when we do it, it's deemed
Preach, brother.
it's deemed whatever. But 20 years from now, when it becomes like a common norm or whatever, when a white face is painted on top of it, it's deemed like it's
I
acceptable.
know exactly what you're talking about. Like there was a
It's-
prime example of where like Kim Kardashian had the braids going back,
Or
and
Kylie
it
or-
was
yeah,
deemed
yeah,
as
yeah.
high fashion.
Right.
Versus black women who've been getting
doing that.
cornrows is deemed as ghetto
Listen,
looking.
let's even
So
get
I get where you're coming
let's
from.
even get into the essence of from when we were kids. How you'll look at a Maybelline or a Victoria's Secret commercial, and you have women who literally look malnutritioned on these as models and representations. You know what I'm saying? A girl who had a nice shape or a nice booty or whatever or something like that wasn't considered beautiful back in the days. Fast forward to 2018, if you don't have a booty, you're really, it's just like, come on, you don't got meat on your bones. It's like, that's not considered.
People are paying thousands of dollars.
And
Yep.
that's been, naturally black women have had that, you know what I'm saying, with no type of no type of surgery, no type of anything like that. But now you got women like Iggy Azalea and Kim Kardashian who get surgical enhancements or whatever, and now it's deemed beautiful, even though they look like a bug's life. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Well,
They
I'll
don't
even take
look
it
right.
further. One of my favorite quotes from I don't know if y'all know OG Macko, but I like him. But he was like, when black girls was twerking, y'all was screaming horror. When Miley did it, she got a tour. Like,
Hey, I think Jay-Z said that, didn't he?
No.
You said something along those lines.
No, he
talked
said
about
twerk, Molly, twerk.
Yeah.
He,
But I think he meant
he
that
hyped
he
that
was-
white woman
yeah.
up. Behind every problematic white woman is a black man. But
But I didn't think he meant it like that. I think he was meant to hype it. He was making fun of it. But yeah.
I'm just kidding, shade for shade. But no, I mean, like when black women twerk, it's like something that's hypersexualized, but twerking is something like that's ancient to the culture, like to the whole entire African diaspora. Like it just got a different name wherever you go. I mean, I went to Ghana, before twerking was popular. I was like, 2013. People were twerking at funerals and at bars and in the streets. It wasn't called twerking, but it was the same thing. In Haiti, I went to a restaurant and people were dancing. It's a thing, but when you come here, when black women do it, it's sexual, and white women do it, it's like cool, and they get to connect, and it's not the same. I don't know.
No,
It's just not the same.
Get your point, for sure.
Yeah, that's why you can't have it.
Yeah, you can
Until
never
it's
have
equal
it.
across the board, you cannot have it. It's just like hip hop when a black person is rapping, they're demonized, but Macklemore gets to be like a superhero, right? And gets to be famous and get all these deals, but you don't give J. Cole those same deals, right?
Right.
You don't really get a chance to rap with those same deals. And other people who are rapping just as positive as Macklemore, but he gets to be a hero.
This weekend we've had Lil Wayne, we've had Kanye apparently dropped an album yesterday.
Oh, man,
and
Uncle Ye.
Logic dropped an album. Logic might sell out of
So
all of
every
them.
So is Logic white?
might,
Logic is a hybrid.
Logic is white. Like,
He's a hybrid.
Oh, that's messed up. That's messed up.
He clearly, I mean, he says he's part black or whatever, but
That goes back to my point before about when you have biracial children, right? And if your children do not look black, they get to operate in spaces.
That other.
Yeah. Or white. I didn't know Logic was black until I heard his music.
Yeah.
And I love his music.
his music, or did he tell you? Because his music doesn't tell me that.
In the music, yeah, he has songs about him being biracial. He talks about being biracial a lot and how like black people treated him bad and white people treated him bad.
It's tough, man, because it just shows you J. Cole is black, but J. Cole has a white mother. So
Drake has a white mom.
What is the difference between a Logic and a J. Cole? You know what I'm
The
saying?
skin
Other than
color.
The skin color. So that's what I'm saying. We'll see. I'm curious to see who
The numbers.
sells out more.
The numbers.
Lil Wayne
I think
hasn't
Carter
dropped an
5
album.
might
I
sell
think
more,
Lil
though.
Wayne might sell more.
We'll see.
He better sell more.
I think what Lil Wayne
think
did
Lil
that was
Wayne
wrong.
sell
He should have never done it. He should have never announced it.
Yeah, he
he
should've
should have
dropped
never
it.
announced it.
Should've
You
dropped
can't
it.
announce anything in 2018.
Nowadays,
That element of
especially-
surprise is very.
Especially
You're giving
with the hype.
expectations.
Especially with the hype.
You're giving expectations. He should have just dropped it
Dropped it,
same
yeah.
day. You know what I'm saying? That would have had a bigger. I don't think he's gonna sell more than Logic, but we'll see.
Yeah, because people already put expectation before purchasing.
But yeah, man, it's just
Oh, and to go back to colorism piece, actually,
Right.
there is to speaking of two black women is Cardi B gets this level of praise that Tiffany Haddish get called ghetto, and that is all the time. She's loud, she's obnoxious, but Cardi, they're both come from ghetto black femme.
Where's the praise? You said that Cardi B is receiving praise from.
I think she gets TV endorsements. I mean, she's liked by
she's highlighted to be this character.
Yeah, she's highlighted. She's celebrated. She's appreciated for it. And not saying that Tiffany Haddish doesn't get those deals, but I think she also gets backlash and
but I think she gets backlash from black people though. Recently, Cat Williams. He's saying that she's successful because she's the ghetto black. And then he said he knows a lot of black. But then he said those ghetto blacks don't get a lot of chances like she does because she has a white husband.
I'm just not a fan of the hypocrisy. It's like you're sitting here, you're talking about a woman being ghetto black, but what is a pimp? Is a pimp a good representation of a black man? It's like yo, that's not a good representation.
Nobody ever put themselves in their shoes when they're speaking. They don't put themselves in their shoes. They always speak on others. And not put themselves in their shoes and.
Well, I didn't think of him anything less than being ghetto. What is he talking about?
Cat Williams.
Yeah, I mean, I say that freely because I consider myself ghetto too. But I don't know.
Okay, not to open something, but I'm gonna open something. There is this comment, right? This gentleman named Real Life Cause. He's been on a few things, and then they were saying what Kevin Hart was saying regarding Cat Williams things, like we're not gonna support it, because you can't put down a person just to big up yourself, right? We're not gonna support it. But then Kaz was like, I don't care what Kevin Hart says or what Cat Williams is saying. I'm pro-black. I support everything black.
Right.
Who said that?
How do you guys feel about that? He's a influencer. It's Real Life Cause. He's been doing Henny Paloozas and just parties that he's done.
Sounds familiar.
So he said he's rooting for everybody black.
Everything black. So he'll support whatever is black. Now you had people in the comments was like, what if it's trash? They were just saying things like that. But he was like, if you up there, I'm supporting you to make the wave for us up there.
Me as a black person, me as a black man, I can't feel against it because I know in society we're at the bottom of the barrel, period. Like, you know what I'm saying? As far as people getting what is it, like when you race and somebody gets head starts.
Okay, yeah.
As far as people getting head starts of you, so you're saying that Real Life Cause said it, but Issa Rae said it too on the red carpet too when they asked her like, oh, who are you voting for tonight?
Yeah, she did.
I'm rooting for everybody black.
I'm rooting for everybody black. It's just, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? You can't make a Gods of Egypt movie and have nothing but white faces in it and stuff like that. But when I come on a red carpet and I say like, yo, like I'm rooting for everybody black, like, oh, I'm wrong for that. Nah, yo, you literally just culturally appropriate. You literally just stole something. You know what I'm saying? History behind something. Like, I have the right to do that. You know.
And if Black Panther don't rack up every award,
right? Yeah,
we already know what it is.
Well,
right now.
I'm different with that. Awards should win based on like if the movie was good. Yeah,
but some people don't believe that.
I'm
good with the box office.
Recently,
like, you know what I'm saying?
Recently there was
because
what was
the box office?
The Emmys?
More.
The Emmys just now, right?
Yeah,
and there was like a lot of black nominees.
I gotta get some air.
But
so
most people are not liking it because there weren't a lot of black winners. So, like, where do we get our fix? Where do we win?
Brick by brick. Because at the end of the day, here's the truth of the matter. If all of us Yeah. The truth of the matter is that
needing some water.
Some ice.
The truth of you coming out. The truth of the matter is that if we would have won all the awards, we still wouldn't have been satisfied. A lot of us, we would have been like, all right, they doing that to just like, you know what I'm saying?
We didn't say all the awards.
If we would have won 8 out of 10, if it would have been 80%, we still would have been like, all right, they just trying to make up for a few years and stuff like that.
I mean, the Emmys is one of the most,
See you later.
Bye. Thank you.
You guys are doing an amazing thing. Keep doing it.
Absolutely.
Thank
you.
See that voice change?
But
That was a voice change.
Her voice change? Good or bad?
Good. She's herself.
So this was herself. The other one was not herself. Got it. Okay. Continue.
Y'all so shady.
Yeah, I mean, look, man, it's you can't make up hundreds of years by an Emmy.
I don't think that's what people are looking for, to make up like 100 years or 500 years.
You know what I want? I want us to be in the positions of these cultural, you have a bunch of people who are culturally clueless that are that are making decisions to put at the forefront of what's considered good art, or what's considered a strong performance and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? You have a bunch of people who are culturally clueless that's making decisions on hip hop right now. You got a people who are culturally clueless that's making decisions on black fashion and things right now.
But I don't think that's on like the fault of like black people, right? And
well,
I don't
we have to be in those positions.
But I think you're saying that as if black people aren't trying to pierce those spaces, and they are every single day. But I also think like people like black art, right? But they don't want to give black art the credit to where it comes from,
right?
And so, with that being said, we see it like we just talked about. We see with braids. I mean, I take offense when people don't acknowledge that hip hop comes from African American people, right? So when they say it's American, I be like, hold up, let's get more specific real quick, because there was a time when hip hop was like extremely demonized, and you know, I mean, people had to go to court.
He said he was gonna bring more ice.
Okay, but anyway, so when it comes to these award shows and you're talking about rooting for everybody black, I think it's context is everything, because politically, if it's a politician, hell no. You think I'm really gonna support Ben Carson?
No, some people believe that. Some people believe they root for anybody black in office and off office.
No, not in office.
I have a coworker that's like that.
So no, not with my life. I would not.
So the rooting for everybody black does not stand well with you.
It depends. Context and everything.
Some people are gonna understand it. Some people aren't.
So it means like if you're talking about an award show, I'm like, they deserve that. We've had too many roles where we didn't get credit or we were overlooked so many times that I feel like
so much. You're welcome.
A win that wasn't deserved, that didn't really deserve a win that a black actress or a black actor did. I'm like, man, there was plenty of white people who got awards that didn't deserve them either. So give it to them. But I wouldn't vote for somebody just because they were black. No.
Oh.
What is your thought?
Me either.
You've been pretty quiet. You've been pretty quiet. I need to hear.
Well, I mean, because they've been.
Yeah, I got you.
Dialoguing. So no, I wouldn't vote somebody just because they're black. Now, when it comes to like politics, yes.
So you think politics?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what I'm talking about, politics. I wouldn't vote.
So she said she wouldn't vote politics. Yeah, I wouldn't vote politics based on just skin tone or whatever, because you got.
But I'm voting for Andrew Gillum.
You got I did vote for him, but I wouldn't vote for Ben Carson. So it's just.
But it's not even. I don't agree with everything that he goes for, because realistically speaking, I'm more so. How can I say it? Connect more with, like, I have more Republican views. Mm-hmm. However, due to who's in office, yes, I'm going to vote for the black man. Mm-hmm. I don't agree with all this free social help and everything under the sun, because I feel as though if I can get up and go to work, you can get up and go to work too. And I know Andrew Gillum more so is like, I want to give free this and free that and free this. I don't believe in all that.
Well, we can have a conversation about it. We can believe in all that. I don't know if we're going that way, but I don't think that's necessarily true. But what he's saying, free, but we can continue.
He has more socialist views, like I believe in equality. I don't truly believe in quote unquote equality. I believe in if you work for it.
There's people who are in positions didn't work for it, though.
That's true.
There are people in positions, nepotism got them there. They knew somebody who got them there, and they were underqualified. And I feel like this whole idea that poor people shouldn't receive resources, like for someone who's like working in this sector and, you know, been involved in it and come from a community of it, everybody doesn't get the opportunity to get work also. And that's like a, I don't know how to explain it, but people have gotten wealth out of their families off the backs of black and brown people.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, though. If
after black and brown people?
No, not that. I think if you got wealth off of your family, at the end of the day, when you're working, it's to leave a legacy for your child. So if they benefit off of that, I don't see a problem with that.
Okay, but then you can't use the narrative that people. The
narrative is gonna be different for sure.
Right, but you can't use the same narrative that these people are lazy and they don't want to work.
I don't think people are lazy, but you do have a lot of people who feel as though, like for prime example, I have a friend where they had the opportunity to get a better job, but they didn't want to get it because I don't want to lose my Section 8. Like, how do you correct that? I mean, that's a little hard for me because it's like I understand people need help, and everyone needs help. But how long?
It's not generalized
but how
either.
long are you gonna need that help for? And for me, it's not just black people. It's not just white people because you have white people who abuse the system just as bad as black people. I'm pretty sure there are. Just like you have to mitigate. It's, for me, it's not more so color. It's more so how long are you gonna really need this help for? If you can't be on Section 8 for 10 damn years.
The truth of the matter is that a lot of these help programs and things of that nature,
they're poorly ran and they're poorly funded.
Not even poorly ran and poorly funded, but they actually just they're damaging the individual a lot.
Exactly.
More. I don't know if you guys ever heard the. This sound like some guru talk. It sounds like some guru talk or whatever now, but I'm not trying to get into no guru talk. I'll try to speak through it real quick, but. I think if I remember, I don't want to butcher it too, and sorry to people out there that actually know the story. I think it's like this dude's just butchering the shit out of this thing right now. So, if I'm not mistaken, there was a guru and like let's just call him a follower or a student or whatever. They were climbing up this mountain or whatever. They seen this family, this homeless family. They had one cow that was very skinny, but that was the only milk that they could get from this cow. So the guru told the student like. The student was like, yo, we need to help this family. Like, you know what I'm saying? This family's on their last, the guru was like, take the cow up to the top of the mountain and push the cow off the mountain. The student was like, yo, bro, this is all they have. If we throw this cow off, they're gonna die. Like, you know what I'm saying? The guru was like, listen to me, take the cow up to the top of the mountain, kick the cow off, and kill the cow. The student did what he said, followed the guru on his quest or his journey or whatever to become a guru or whatever. About 10, 15 years later, the kid visited that same area where the family was. It was abandoned. The house was, you know what I'm saying, like pretty much broken up or whatever. The farm was like scarce and everything. Climbed up the mountain a little bit, saw this huge house with a whole bunch of farms and stuff, and saw that the family that was in that broken house was there. And they ran up to the student like, oh my God, like, you know what I'm saying, like, how you've been or whatever. And then he was just like, you guys used to live at the bottom of the mountain. Like, what happened? Like, what happened? He was just like, this dumb cow climbed to the top of the mountain and jumped off, and we just had to fend for ourselves. So we started like planting a whole bunch of crops, and we just started living off the earth. And then before you know, we were able to sell a lot of those crops to the village and the community. And me and my family are good now.
It makes you fend for yourself.
Well, we don't live in a society where we can live off the land.
You put people's backs against the wall. If you put somebody, they'll find a way.
Okay, well let me say this. Our society right now isn't set up that way. It's not set up where people can live off their land. I know you're like giving a story and writing and talking about putting people's backs against the wall, but there's this assumption that people who get assistance are still living comfortable lives, right? Yeah, right. And they're not. And I mean,
they could be living in a lie also. Like they could.
That's just like
really,
you have.
But for me, I've gone into these people's homes, right? So I'm not someone who's looking on the outside, right? I've worked in this sector for a very long time, for about 5 years. So I've gone into these people's homes. I've been someone who's assisting with help, and I've seen people who have abused it, and I've seen people who have really, really needed the help, right? And I think that to say that, oh, you only need this for 3 months, this is not like a blanket thing. For example, unemployment, you get it for 3 months, right? I don't know if you all have ever been without a job, but who's to say you get a job in 3 months, right? And so you get $200 and something every week. If you're unemployed, how can you live off that? That's not but that's not real assistance.
But then again, you have it coming from somebody like me who was born in Haiti, who my mom came here with $0 to her name.
I don't use that argument.
I mean, but like for me,
yeah.
The reason why I say that is because you can't. I'm not saying because she's from Haiti, blah blah. You have people who were born here who afforded opportunities. What I'm saying is, how can you explain the difference between someone who comes from a third world country who's able to come here and thrive, who came here with $0 to their name, who's able to purchase their own home and have a job? Yeah, it might not be the ideal job, but yet they still work that job because they have a goal in mind, and they're not trying to get all this assistance versus somebody who was born here, who was afforded all these different opportunities, but yet they continue to stay on this revolving cycle, this system that keeps on enabling them.
It deals from within. I think right now what we're debating is about within. People from within. And
There are people who want and they cannot have access. There's
because
Florida State gives so many scholarships to students because there was a lot of students who had to go back home because they could not stay in college. They could not get the better opportunity. There were students who used their financial aid because when they were in high school, they were working to they were helping pay bills in their home. They went to college, their families started starving. So they were sitting there. My friend was homeless in school, right? And so he had to go back home because he was sending his financial aid every time he got his money back, his leftover money back home because they were starving too. I mean, I've had friends in school who were homeless who wanted better, but they needed those assistance, right? And school wasn't an option, of course, and they're still poor trying to climb the ladder. Here we are. I've been out of school 2015, 3 years later, and they're trying, right? And they haven't reached a place of stability. But if they really would qualify for some of these assistance, they would be able to step up on the ladder. So I don't think it's about what's within. I think that's a very kind of like an elitist kind of perspective about what really happens to everyday people, and it's almost as if and for me, I'm petty. I kind of feel like if black people cheat the system, goddamn, their grandparents built this country and didn't receive a goddamn thing, right? At the end of the day, I mean, that's the petty part of me is saying that, like,
you can't use that argument as a politician.
As a politician, but the petty me, because for me, for example, like, I don't come from this lineage of family who has had access to things. My father, who I live with right now, right, was someone who picked oranges. Like, that was one of his first jobs.
Oranges too.
Right, who picked oranges. So I'm not living I'm unemployed, right? So is it an assumption that, I don't want a better life for myself and I should not receive assistance? I feel like a little bit of the Republican view when it's extreme right is people who haven't been, I'm not talking about you, I'm just talking about I'm just talking in general, haven't experienced it, and this whole rhetoric is their wealth, their money has come from people who didn't fucking work for camera.
No, you don't.
It's not a political correction.
For people who didn't work for it at all, right? And we're talking about kids who grew up in foster care and they're trying to make a way for themselves, or jobs who discriminate against people based on their names. It's so many different factors that plays into part, and also certain where you live. If you live in Sanford, what job do you really have in a rural place, right? You're gonna have more people on assistance because there's no jobs for people to get.
Right. I know a lot of these perspectives at the end of the day, we're product from our experiences and stuff of that nature. Like, I know my family, they're Caribbean, Jamaican. My dad came down to the States, you know what I'm saying, when my mom was back in Jamaica. She was pregnant with my older brother and stuff like that. He found a way. He started working out of a Toyota dealership, no high school diploma, no college degree, same bottom, from the bottom up type thing. Moved my mom back, from Jamaica to the States. They were living in a basement in New York. Then they finally got all 3 floors of the house and stuff like that. I'll never forget this story. My father, right? This is how practical. Oh shit! You trusting these
love bugs, man. You gotta love bugs.
That is a love bug.
I don't know. You listen. I don't care if that's a love-hate bug. Like, yo,
folks be like straight out the jungle, see a bug. I'm scared.
I'm like Martin in that National Security movie. Like, oh, like nah. So, but yeah, I'll never forget this experience. Like, I'll never forget growing up. Apparently, my mom one day, she felt like, we could just use a little bit help, like with what was going on. I don't know if she was working at the time. I don't think she was. My dad was just working at Toyota dealership as a mechanic there, and his side hustle in his friend's garage fixing cars. And my mom applied for assistance one day. My dad came home one day from work and he saw that mail or something. He flipped the F out. Like, he was just like, I am not raising no kids under no assistance or whatever. Terminated the application she did and like flipped out on her because he was just not, he was so prideful that he was not having his family need any help or whatever. And that's the type of foundation he raised us up on underneath. He was just like, yo, I don't care. Like, we're gonna work hard. My mom, she started working for Chase Bank, and they just just found a way. You know what I'm saying? The house that we had we bought that house in Point Siena before Point Siena was Point Siena. We bought that house in Point Siena when it was PO. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, before, like, Point Siena is what you know, and we didn't even move into it until like 2-3 years later. Like, you know what I'm saying? So the house was just there as a vacation home until we, you know, finally moved from New York. But just that story in itself and that pride in itself, like, he instilled that into his children. And like,
well, I'm
not saying that I don't believe nobody should have assistance. You know, when I was in college and I didn't have enough money to afford a place, and I was roommating with my friend Jeff in Metro West or whatever, and I was going back and forth to UCS, and I was making $9 an hour at a retail job or whatever the case is. I got a little, you know, stamps just for food for the, you know, month, like a $200 a month or whatever and stuff like that. And I can tell you that after having that for a full year of college, a full semester, I would say, in college, I can tell you that after having that, I started to feel like it was my right to have it. You know what I'm saying? I started to feel like, yo, like, even when I did get those raises at the job and I didn't necessarily need it anymore, I felt like I deserved to have that free food. Like, I deserved to have that free food. And I didn't realize that it was, like, really manipulating my mind and getting me used to having something that was supposed to be a privilege and not a right.
So that's unfortunate.
So
hey, we can go on.
Let me tell you really quick. It's like I went to
pick this cotton. My parents picked that cotton. You ain't picked no cotton.
But I feel like it's like really, you know, we're talking about our personal experience. So I'm gonna include mine. Like, I went to school, right? So in order for me to go to college, I had to apply for food stamps. I had no parents who could send me any money for food or anything. Like, I was on my own going to college, leaving Sanford, period, right? And so at the end of the day, I had to work 3 jobs to put myself through school. I worked under the table at one job. I didn't have any car. I rode a bus. I hitchhiked rides. I went to a job that was almost 30 minutes away from my school. You know, I worked late hours and went to school, right? And so I had,
thank you.
So I had to, you know, be on food stamps, and with that, I still didn't make $1,000 a month. I looked at one of my tax returns. I put in my social security number from like back in the day, and like a whole year, I had made $3,000, like working. You know, like how could I really have lived off that? I needed assistance, right? But I didn't have any housing assistance, of course, because you're in college. But it would have been easy. I would have been able to have better internships and have better access to opportunities if I didn't have that. So I think equality may not be the goal, but I do think equity is, right? And I don't think we all start on the same level. And I think it has to do with a lot how the system is structured to keep certain people in certain spaces. I don't think people want to remain poor because it's like a comfortable place and I really like it. There are people who are poor who really, really want to climb the level and be in other spaces, and they don't have opportunities, nor do they have access.
Right. I agree.
Glad we could come to an agreement. That's the whole part about the dialogue and having a conversation.
And that's why I said I think people should get assistance for a certain time period, but you shouldn't be on assistance for 5-10 years.
But you also should have supplemental.
When are you going to be able to raise yourself above that assistance, though? If you're
some people, I do believe some people, they need to be thrown out in the wolves, because help can also be crippling, man. Like, help can be crippling. I was in a relationship before with a girl whose mother has a master's degree in school, but she's been working at Walmart for the past 25 years in the fitting room. You know what I'm saying? Because of this kind of complacency and the comfort of her younger daughter taking care of her and stuff. These were things that me as a boyfriend, I was thinking about, you know what I'm saying, as I'm committing to this woman. I'm sorry, because I have to think about that with marriage. I have to think about, like, if I marry you. Do you have
the same mentality as your mother?
Yeah, and I don't think she did have the same mentality, but I had to think, like, if I marry you, am I going to be taking care of her too? Like, you know what I'm saying? That sounds wrong, but I don't want, it sounds wrong, but I don't want your, you know what I'm saying, your mom who's in her 40s to feel like she can't take care of herself. Now she's living with us and I can't walk around butt ass naked in my house because you got to take
your mom's around.
Now, you know what I'm saying?
Hey, good point.
That's a massive.
Good point.
So, but that a crutch of her daughter been taking care of her and stuff and like that. You know what I'm saying? You know, assistance could be the same for some people. So.
What if the people who work in 2 jobs and they're still not making ends meet?
What 2 jobs are you working?
I mean, we know that certain jobs people don't have access to. So I'm gonna speak to my where I come from, right? Sanford is the largest city in Seminole County. I just moved back here, so I lived in Jacksonville. I lived in Tallahassee, which is limited jobs also. So you live in a place like Sanford, you only have a call center to go to. The railroad used to be a big place where people got jobs 30 years ago. CSX is not really hiring people unless you have an engineering degree. But back in the day, you didn't have to have that, right? And so you have call centers, you have places like Walmart, but you don't have real professional jobs there. So what other jobs can you get when you have the cheapest rent in town is $900, right? For a 1-bedroom. What do? You do
right next to Lake Mary that has all these.
They don't have jobs.
Well, that's where I work, and I know Lake Mary has a lot of jobs.
It's not the same. It's not the same like market if you go to somewhere like Orlando. If you go to somewhere like Jacksonville, we're talking about like access and resources and better jobs. Like in Lake Mary, I'm sure they will hire someone who had a college degree over people who don't have those degrees, right? And you're probably talking about medical centers or bank and businesses, but Lake Mary doesn't have like this array of like businesses or nonprofits where people who worked in social services, they could probably get a job there, or engineering. It's not a large market for jobs.
I just personally know a lot of people that work in Lake Mary, and they have really good jobs.
Like you could take over.
I don't know.
You can take over, man.
That's just not the experience.
I mean, we're not gonna agree.
Yeah, wait.
That's not the experience I have for Lake Mary. But
at the end of the day, we all want the best. You know what I'm saying? We just got different perspectives on how to get there. I know if I have children, first one, you know, everybody's different. I'm not teaching my sons or my daughters that college is gonna get them $1 million.
No,
that's just me personally.
It's not.
I went there. I did that. I did the college thing. I never wanted to, but I did it for my parents to be like, hey, I'm your first son. Here's my degree. Boom. But I know that those 5 years was wasted time. I could have been invested into my own craft, into making sure I can become a millionaire myself. So.
But did you do that because you had no other option?
School.
Yeah, because like at the time financially, like, did you have another option?
Did I have another option? I'm living underneath my parents' roof. Maybe not, because
Island
you're
parents don't
underneath
play
my
that.
roof, my
You
rules
do.
kind of thing.
Yeah,
do what I tell you to do.
I don't think that's like an island thing, because
Yeah,
well,
so
African American
Same
parents,
thing.
hell yeah.
I mean, they
don't have no choice.
I'm only with my parents because they know that I'm transitioning to DC. If not, I would be working. My brother lived there. He paid rent to them.
Well, yeah, because I know my mom was like, you either start paying rent or you take your butt back to school.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna go back to school.
You know what? That's tough though, because there's big debates about why a lot of, and this is in the black family household, a lot of black families, they charge their children rent.
That's crazy to me.
That's a whole nother conversation,
now,
man.
my parents, they never, I don't want to say rent, but when I got my first job, maybe I looked at it as a responsibility booster for my father. He started making me pay the water bill every month. So that $50, $60 that I was getting from working at Sam's Club as a cashier and stuff, he made sure, like, yo, you're paying this water bill. You know what I'm saying? So me, I just look at it as a responsibility builder versus like, yo, we need help in this house. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I mean,
so
you just did what the white girl did.
What happened?
Like, oh, yo, we need help. Hey, you don't even talk like that.
Yeah. So
He's Jamaican.
yeah, y'all do it too.
So,
y'all have this perception of African Americans. My father doesn't talk like that.
She's like, you just did what she did. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure the Jamaican dad don't talk like that. It's more.
So I guess, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, so I just know there's certain grounds I'm gonna
She
raise
ain't
my
letting nothing
children
slide.
Danielle is like, not today.
Not up in here.
Hey, listen, hey, we can go on and on. Like I said, it's been a few hours or so, even.
Y'all gonna have to do a lot of chopping up. I know y'all gonna have to do a lot of chopping up.
It's all right. I like to run it through. I'm not a person that like to chop things up. You know, it's nothing that we said that shouldn't be. But we gonna make it smooth, you know. But I thank you, ladies and gent, for this lunch today. So cheers.
Good talk.
For sure.
To water.
And we're all good, by the way.
Good
If you guys on camera, we're all good.
That
We're
was
all
like
good.
bad luck.